Good morning, Central Pennsylvania. This is Trish Robinson with Two Inspiring Matters of the Heart, a show for the community and about the community. Thank you for joining me. I'd like to first thank my sponsors, She Does Hauling and Dohero Mechanical LLC. Both are located here in Central Pennsylvania. They are the heart of our community. We need to service our community more by catering to our entrepreneurs. So if you see the information below, please contact them and find out what services and product they have so that we can support their efforts. The pandemic. 2020 was deemed a year of vision and opportunity. But what we've been faced with is the unknown. Schools have been closed. Businesses have been closing up. We have lost lives. We don't know what direction we're going to go in, but it's time for us to take a stand and think about what's next in our community. What can we do to improve the situation in terms of our self-care? How can we manage and get through the unknown? My guest today is a single mother of 3 young boys, and she knows firsthand how to cope, how to get through, and how to manage the unknown. Candace Coleman, I'd like to thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I know you have a busy schedule. So this is an opportunity for us to share with our community, especially those things that are, like I said, the unknown.
Right.
We've been dealing with a pandemic that has affected our lives tremendously. It has impacted the way we communicate.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Practicing social distancing, not knowing if we can. We have to wear masks and we have to wear gloves, and how is that affecting our home lives? And it has changed things, correct?
Absolutely, yes.
So first of all, just give our viewers a little bit of background of who you are.
Okay. Well, again, my name is Candace Coleman. I am a mother of 3 boys, ages 14. I have to get it right now. Wow. 12 and 9. My middle son is autistic, and I am also a business owner. So I have a company called I Party for a Living. We're a throne rental and event rental company.
Awesome.
I also just recently started a platform called The Green Couch Therapist that provides information and resources in the area of self-care, mental health, and just providing a source for attainment and maintenance of your mental wellness.
That is awesome. That's awesome. And we're going to dive into that a little bit later. But I would like to go back to when you first heard that the schools were going to be closed because of a pandemic.
Right.
That you will have to now be a part of homeschooling your kids. What was your first reaction to that?
Well, my first reaction, I did not realize that it was going to be such a, permanent situation for the rest of the school year. In my mind, it was only going to be the first 2 weeks. So I really did not implement any type of educational systems or programming into our routine for the first 2 weeks. It wasn't until after when I found out that, okay, this is what we're going to be doing for the rest of the school year. And for right after that, it was hard. Especially having a teenager and then 2 younger children, everyone's on different levels. I didn't know how to maintain it. So I did some research and found a way on how I can actually organize their day.
Wow.
To where I was able to maintain it. So just by providing them with a schedule and a reward system that I was actually shocked that it worked especially for my 14-year-old.
Wow.
So with the reward system that I implemented, I did an old school star chart.
Okay.
And for each task that my children had to do, whether it was school, whether it was a chore in the house, exercising, they would get a star.
Awesome.
And I knew my kids, they love their Xbox, they love their tablets, their phones. I said, okay, so if you complete these 5 tasks, I use that as their reward. Okay, you can now get on your Xbox. You can now get on your tablet. And after I did that, it was tremendous, like what happened. my day basically ran itself.
It was easier for you.
It was easier because they were so rushing to like, okay, I'm gonna do my schoolwork and then I'm gonna go make my bed. Like, it was to the point that I didn't have to ask them anymore, which in the beginning, it was the total opposite.
It was tough.
It was a total, like, especially because with them knowing that they weren't in school,
right,
they saw it as like a extended vacation.
Absolutely.
Like, I don't have to get up. I don't have to do this because I'm not in school.
And most kids will think that.
Right.
So I'm sure that was a hard transition for them.
Yes.
To be able to do that. So let's go back a little bit. The school district, do you feel that they provide you adequate material for the homeschooling?
I feel that the school district did what they could do because this was such a unforeseen circumstance that happened with everyone. So I don't think that the school district, or any school district for that matter, was really prepared for this to happen. As it went on, we did start receiving more resources. They started doing passing out the laptops, and then they had the information and educational content on YouTube and on TV that kind of guided and aided the students every day. With each grade, there was a different hour that they would be on. And then also with my oldest son, his teachers reached out to him, and where they actually had a Zoom class every day from 10 to 2, where they covered all of their subjects and were on with their classmates.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome. So was it hard for your kids to get on? I mean, again, thinking about the fact that I'm really not in school, but I'm in school.
Right.
I'm at home.
Right.
You know, I get to lounge around. Was it hard to get them motivated to get up?
Absolutely. It was so hard, and that's the reason why I had to find something. That's why I implemented the reward chart, because in the beginning, like they was like, nope, we're not getting up. We don't have to get dressed. Like, we're at home. So after implementing, okay, well, if you don't do this, you're not going to get this. And they realized, oh, okay, wait a minute now. Like,
and those lessons, the lessons that they were given, were they were new lessons, or they were refreshers? No,
they were refresher lessons. Okay. So what they did were they provided educational content of things that they already had gone over. Okay. But I know with my oldest son, what they did was they made it relevant to what was going on now with the pandemic. So a lot of the things were like with science, they did the whole hand washing experiment. So it was nothing new that was introduced as far as educational content, but it was stuff that they refreshers just to kind of get them engaged.
Okay. Yeah. So how do you feel about this school year? Do you feel like it's a loss? I mean, some parents out there are saying, you know what, I feel like the third and the fourth marking period was a loss. It was a wash.
Yeah.
My kids didn't really get anything, gain anything out of it. I think they more or less lost. How do you feel about that?
I feel the same way. I do feel that it was a wash as far as with them being in school and learning new things for the grade that they were supposed to be in. I'm not sure what will happen next year with the school districts and how they would cover that. I'm thinking that it will probably have to go into more of a slasher mode, so more of a kind of cover what you would have learned from the previous year, and then kind of merge it to the next grade.
What they should know.
Right.
Understood. Which makes sense because, again, the retention of kids is so small anyway. So they're not going to recall a lot of information over the summer.
Right.
Their summer has been extended, per se.
Yeah.
So, and we don't know, like you said, we don't know what's going to happen in the fall. If they're going to return to school. So we have to prepare and have you prepare mentally for the fact that I may be having to do this again.
Right. So I have prepared for that. With my one position that I'm working at currently, I also work with students in the schools.
Okay.
So for me, it's going to be like, okay, if they're not in school, I'm not going to be in.
Okay.
But if I go back to work, they're back at school. So I know with other parents that are going to have to deal with that, thinking about, okay, what am I going to do if my children aren't back at school in the fall? Am I going to return to work? Am I going to continue to stay at home? And just, so it's definitely something to think about and something to think about now, and possibly trying to do some research as far as maybe even with unemployment, what are the options if you have children at home and you're not able to stay at home.
To stay at
with them.
home, absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
And that's a decision that is, like you said, is very hard because now you got to choose between your kids' education or even just the mere fact that I got to make sure that someone's taking care of my kids,
Right.
or do I go to work?
Right.
I need to have an income. We need to take care of the home business.
Right.
So that's you're in between a hard place. Not to mention there are parents that are struggling
Yeah.
through this process. You may have a better handle on it
Right.
than other people, other parents that really are not doing so well during this pandemic.
Right.
You mentioned that you have a son that's autistic.
Yes.
Okay. How was that conversation? Because knowing that I can no longer go outside, I can't go to school.
Right.
What was that conversation like for him?
For him, it was definitely very different than it was for my oldest and my youngest son. Of course, with them, they they got a grasp of it, understood what was going on. With my son, who's autistic, it's basically an everyday conversation with him.
Understood.
Because he's thinking, okay, yesterday everyone had corona. Today, everyone's fine. I can go to school.
Right.
So it's an everyday conversation, just to let him know, like, we're not going back to school yet.
Right.
It's for your safety. We don't want you to get sick.
Yeah.
And there were even times where I would actually have to put him in the car, drive him to his school, and show him, like, hey, no one's here. And after
Wow.
that, he would see it and he would understand. And it was interesting. The one day, actually coming home, I had did that with him, and he just looked up in the sky and he was just like, I just wish Corona would go away.
Aw.
And I was like, and he talks, but he doesn't talk. Like, he talks when he wants to talk.
Right.
And I was like, oh my God, like, that's when I understood. Like, that's when to me, I felt like he understood.
He understood.
Yeah.
Yes. And that could be hard for him. So I'm glad you're having that conversation because we tend to not respond well to our kids, but like, this is how it is. But to have that conversation so they can understand this is what's going on, because this is the environment that we're in right now.
Right. It's very important that we have that conversation. And I do like that with my oldest and all three of them, but especially my oldest and my youngest son, myself and his father are very good at, when they're watching the news, being able to sit with them and then allow them to ask questions.
Yes.
Like, hey, what does this mean? Or why do we have to do this? Just to kind of give them a background and let them know, like, what is really going on out there, because we do not want to shelter them and hide it from them.
Yes, that's the last thing that we should be doing is keep our kids in a shell, because that's not reality. It is what it is, and we all have to. This is a new normal.
Right.
We didn't expect it, but we have to learn how to live differently.
Right.
We have to learn how to walk differently. How we talk, how we communicate. Like I said, when we communicate with one another, it's totally different.
It's totally different. It's so hard for when I go somewhere and I see somebody I know and be like,
you can't. You want to embrace them, but
right.
you can't, because you know that not for your own safety, but for their safety as well. We got to maintain that social distancing, and so it's harder for kids, to be able to do that.
Right.
So just thinking about adults, and I know, like I said, you've handled this quite well. You're able to deal with it, but there are women out there and men that are having a tough time, and so we don't know how to self-care. We're used to going to the hair salon, going to get our nails done. Those are things that will help us feel better and good about ourselves. But if we have to do those things ourselves, we're not, or we're not even getting up in the morning.
Right.
We're not even getting dressed because of what's going on. So how would you speak to those individuals that are going through this tough time and maybe going through some depression and using vices like alcoholism or drug addictions to cope with this time? What would you say to them?
Well, definitely I would want everyone to know who's feeling like that, just to know that your feelings are valid, because a lot of times when we feel down, we'll be upset at ourselves, like, why am I upset? Like, you'll get upset at yourself for just knowing that your feelings are valid. And also just take it one day at a time. If you can just set one goal for yourself each day, and then once you accomplish that goal, you say, okay, if I can do that, I can take the next step.
Absolutely.
So one goal, maybe just getting out the bed and taking a shower can be one goal. The next goal, can be, I'm going to give myself a facial, or, watch YouTube and learn how to give myself a facial.
Right.
Just something. I suggest everyone do something for themselves every day, especially if you have children, and a family at home to take care of. It's so often that we get lost in taking care of everyone else that we forget about ourselves. And I always tell everyone, like, you cannot pour from an empty cup.
Oh,
the
absolutely.
first person you should be taking care of is you.
Oh, absolutely.
Because if there's no you, there is no you can't take care of anyone.
You can't
else.
do anything else.
Right. So just making sure every day you're doing something for yourself. And I think that too would help. And also, if you're feeling as if you're falling into a state of depression, one resource that I do have, my good friend, Dr. Erica Pinckney, she just made us aware of this a couple weeks ago, that with the Taraji P. Henson has a foundation called the Boris L. Henson Foundation that is going to be providing free therapy for people in low-income communities and people who are being affected by COVID-19.
Wow.
And all you would have to do is go to the website, which is www.borislhenson.org.
Okay.
You put your zip code, and it gives you a list of therapists in the area who are being able to provide these free services.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome. There is a lot of information that's out there for individuals that are going through, that are having a hard time. I'm hoping that people just pay attention.
Right.
Pay attention to their needs. You know, don't overlook them. Don't push it to the side. They're
Right.
valid, like you said. They're valid. There's reasons why you feel that way, because
Right.
we're not in this alone.
Right.
Everyone is going through something, but we have to be able to reach out to individuals that will help them. And you just gave some great resources that will help. So thank you for that, Candace. How do you, even though you seem to be able to handle your children well, and I know you seem to have a really grip on self-care, but how do you handle and manage your day? How do you manage yourself? And I know it can be very chaotic, but what is your downtime? What is your time for you to say, okay, reflect on how do I get myself back into the groove of things?
Right. So again, as far as my day and how it's scheduled, with schooling, I definitely rely on that reward chart to help me with my children. And then also, I take time for myself. Like when my kids, they'll go with their father, or they'll go with their grandmom, and that'll be my me time.
Oh,
something
good.
I do something for myself. Like, I'm gonna give myself a pedicure, like I said, or I give myself a facial, just to make sure I'm taking that time for myself. So that way, when they come back through the door, I'm ready.
You ready to go?
I'm ready to go. Yes.
You're refreshed, you're revived,
Yes.
and I think that's what we have to do. I think about when I had my daughter, first had my daughter, and my mom used to say all the time, when she sleeps, you sleep.
Yes.
You know, so you have to get yourself together and be ready for when she wakes up. So I think that's very important now. When your kids are in a place where they're self-sufficient and they're doing things for themselves,
That's
you take
your
that time for
That's your
yourself.
time. Right.
Get that time in because you're going to need it, because you never know. That's great stuff. This is, like I said, this is a new thing for all of us. We are all trying to figure things out, trying to figure out what direction we're going to go in. What lessons, because for myself, when I think about this pandemic, it has made me really look internally. It really made me look internally. It made me look at what I was doing, what I would like to do, and then the path to get there.
Right.
So, what lessons, if any, have you thought about? And this is all about you, Candace. What lessons have you learned? Because I want to help our viewers understand that let's not take this time as a time to get into a depression mode or to say, woe is me, but to think about there's a reason why this happened. So what can I do to improve upon maybe some personal development? So what lessons have you learned that has made you, it was almost like an awakening?
Okay. I know for me, well, first I would say for anyone, just again, make sure that if your self-care and your mental health is good, then I would suggest, okay, how can I grow like in my business, or how can I become better after this pandemic? So for me, I have actually, since the pandemic, because I just graduated college during the pandemic. So everything for me on that end kind of picked up.
Okay.
With everything that's going on, because people need mental health services, people, they have questions. So for me, just putting myself more out there than I have before, and just making sure that I'm definitely keeping a schedule.
Okay.
Because with all that's going on,
you're going to need that.
Definitely the schedule, and just realizing that, of course, I don't have all the answers.
Right.
And that was one thing that I realized when it came to my children and starting to homeschool them. It's like, I don't have all the answers. So I had to actually, I had to go out, do some research myself in order to find a system that worked.
Awesome.
So I would suggest for anyone, if it's something that you want to grow in, just get out, just do some research. Google is your best friend.
Yes.
YouTube is your best friend, and just start. Just
Absolutely.
do some research.
Yes,
Yep.
that's great. That's great because I think like you said, there is so much resource out there. We just have to take advantage of it.
Yes.
During the downtime to refocus our energy towards something that's positive
Right.
versus something negative.
Yes.
So that's awesome. So just thinking about, you talked about your business. I think right now with businesses closing, whether it be permanently or temporarily, we are experiencing some perilous times right now,
Yes.
and businesses are struggling. We don't know whose doors are going to stay open, whose is going to close.
Right.
So it's a good idea to think about what are the options we have for ourselves so that we can continue to grow professionally as well as personally.
Right.
So with that being said, I know you're a part of the African American Chamber.
Yes.
And so they work well with small businesses.
Yes.
So can you tell me what you guys have in place? Do you have anything in place? What are you working on? Are you reaching out to the community and talking to small businesses on how to support them?
Sure, absolutely. So during the pandemic, I know of several businesses who've actually reached out to our president, and he was able to help them secure funding for their business during this time. And then also one thing that we have going on, June 1st to the 5th, we are going to be doing a Build Your Business Boot Camp virtually.
Nice.
So everyone is free of cost. Everyone is able to attend, no matter if you live in Central Pennsylvania, if you live in Florida, wherever you are. If you can, anybody can tune in, and we're going to be providing information on how to pivot during a pandemic.
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
each day we're going to have a different topic. It's in relation to business and how you can grow your business, start a business, pivot your business from if your business shutting down, if you found out that during the pandemic it didn't last, trying to find a way that you can pivot to where it can last if there is another pandemic.
Okay.
So yes, that's going to be an amazing event, and I would suggest everyone to tune into that one.
That's
Yes.
awesome. That's
Yes.
awesome. Because again, that is a way of helping build a community. We need strong organizations that are reaching out and helping support the community.
Yes.
So that's great. Thank you for sharing that information with our listeners. Candace, I also want to because you have a plethora of experience and you want to support the community. So if you would tell our listeners again how to contact you in terms of if they're going through anything or if they just want to talk because you have that experience, they would love to be able to reach out to you.
Okay, absolutely. So our website is www.thegreencouchtherapist.com. It's also across all social media platforms is The Green Couch Therapist. I'm also during every Wednesday, we're doing a Wellness Wednesday Facebook Live with She Is Still Dope Society.
Oh, okay.
And every Wednesday we are providing a different topic on wellness and how it's relating currently to the pandemic.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I think that's great information for our listeners. So, as we kind of come to a close, I want to think about next year in terms of our students, because this is deep to my core in terms of education. And I'm really fearful that some of the lower income districts are going to suffer in terms of educating our kids, because every child is not homeschool material.
Right.
Every parent doesn't have the capability of being able to do that for their
Absolutely.
kids. So we want to figure out ways of how we can better support them. And I'm hoping that the district will come up with a way that will be more beneficial. I know we're talking with one of the districts, I mentioned maybe Still High. I was told that they would probably be giving options to the parents for those parents that may not be ready to put their kids into a full-time homeschool environment, or perhaps they want to do in school, but they were going to limit the amount of kids.
Right.
Maybe do some type of rotation, which I think is a great idea because you're giving them options,
Right.
and you're not just saying, you know what, you're going to be homeschooled, that's it.
Right.
And one of my concerns was that when giving out the material, it was kind of stagnated. So the kids was not getting like laptops immediately. It was
Right.
kind of last minute. So they were losing, let's go back to losing a lot of quality of time in terms of education.
Right.
So as a parent, is there anything that you would like to see different? Is there anything you just want to speak on in terms of if we had to go back to homeschooling,
Right.
is there anything you would like to see differently?
The one thing that I would like to see differently, and again, I saw this with my children's teachers, but from hearing other stories, it wasn't happening with them and their children. Just having the teachers being able to reach out to the children more often, even if it's only one time a week, to kind of do a check-in with them, ask them if there's anything that they have questions on, if they need help with anything, and just reaching out more to the students themselves to ask them to make sure that they're grasping what they're being taught.
Awesome.
Yeah, that would be my number one thing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I want to again thank you for joining me today. I know you have a busy schedule, so I appreciate you sharing
Thank you.
your expertise and your story.
Thank
I
you.
think it's awesome. Awesome. This is Trish Robinson with Two Inspiring Matters to the Heart, a show for the community and about the community. Again, I want to thank my sponsors, She Does Hauling, as well as DeHarrow Mechanical LLC. Please look at the caption below. Service our community by giving back. We need our entrepreneurs. They are the heart of our community. I want to thank you for joining me. Have a wonderful day. Hello, this is Trish Robinson with Two Inspiring Matters of the Heart, a show for the community and about the community. We would love for you to be a part of the change to bring entrepreneurs, to bring small businesses, to bring issues and concerns to our community on a platform that allows you to have a voice. With that being said, we would love for you to be one of our sponsors. So if you are a small business, you are an entrepreneur, and you would love to show and share your products and service on our station, we would love to hear from you. You may email me at trishrobinson10@gmail.com. We are located at 2225 Sycamore Street, Harrisburg, PA 17111. I look forward to hearing from you. You can also contact me at 717-608-2315. Thank you.